Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to WBRT Radio. And if you're watching on TV, that's what we call BRTV, Bardstown's Cable Channel 19. Time now for this next half hour to be operated by McCoy and Hiestand, attorneys at law, and Sheila Hiestand is in the studio with us, and our first opportunity to meet.
Yeah,
and
good morning, Ross.
Good morning, and so glad to have you with us here.
Thank you.
And we've known Chad for basically the entire time that we've been here, the 5 years that we've been here, and so
he's a good guy, great partner.
And you are a great partner to him, from what he has told me over the last few months in conversations. You guys now have offices just down the street from us, South 3rd Street here in Bardstown, and also in Louisville, Kentucky. And he tells me you're licensed to practice law in a few states too.
Yes, I'm licensed in Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I've been practicing in Kentucky for 22 years, in Indiana for 3 or 4, and then in Tennessee for 3.
Okay. And what, just before we skip on a little bit to talk about today's subject lines and open up the telephones, what does it mean to be able to practice in those states to a client?
Well, it's important for us because a lot of our clients are traveling I-65. They're on the 65 corridor, and they may not live in Tennessee or Indiana, but they're traveling through either one of those states to go somewhere. For instance, they're going on spring break, or they're going down to visit family in White House, Tennessee, and they get into an accident on the interstate or one of the side roads. They need somebody that they can call locally, deal with locally, is familiar with medical providers, and can still help them with the Kentucky aspects of getting the medical bills paid, and then the Tennessee or the Indiana aspects of how the law works, because it is different in every state, and there's slight differences, but they're very important differences, and if you mess it up, you're in deep trouble.
Yeah, we were talking about a particular current event and how states differ, and how we might be similar in one area, but just a little bit different, and it all is important.
That's right.
The phone lines will be open here in just a little bit at 348-2222. Whenever you say open them up, we'll open them up. We do want to remind everybody that there can be some things that can be answered, some things that can't be answered.
That's right.
And I'll let you make the call on that, because I'm not the lawyer. Property damage, always an issue with people. Sometimes they think, well, insurance will take care of all of it, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you can be the innocent person, and yet it's your property that got damaged.
Absolutely. We have a lot of problems with property damage because many people are upside down on their cars, which means they bought a new car or they leased a car, and as you all know, you drive off the lot and depreciation occurs instantly, and all of a sudden your car is worth a lot less than what you paid for it, and your payments are higher than what paying off the car would be, so you're upside down. So one of the things I recommend for all my clients, granted it's after the fact, but what I'd like to tell everybody that's listening, if you need it, talk to your agent about getting gap insurance, and that's a type of insurance. For instance, if you lease a car and you're making small payments and you get into an accident, it's totaled, and the other guy doesn't have insurance, and you have insurance on your car, you're covered for that. You don't end up having to pay for a car that you can no longer drive because it's totaled. Another issue in Kentucky is most insurance policies pay the actual cash value, what the value of the car. If you have a 1999 car that works great, that you've taken great care of, and it's paid off, and you get hit and it's totaled, they're going to pay you a little bit of nothing for it, even though you had no car payment. It was a good car, it worked well, and in your mind, hey, this is worth $6,000 or $7,000. When they go to actual cash value, it may only be $2,000 or $3,000, and that's what they have to pay under their policy. So always look at their policy. One of the things I pay extra for on my insurance coverage is replacement value. So the first 2 years I own the car, a lot of insurance companies will let you buy replacement value on your car. So if you can do that, it's really not expensive at all, but you have to take some time when you're with your insurance agent and you're sitting down talking to them and say, hey, don't just say I want full coverage, because full coverage means something different to everybody. Say, I want gap insurance, and I want to make sure that I have enough coverage on my car that if something happens, I can be made whole. I want replacement coverage. You've got to be really specific when you're doing that. And you know what? You walk into any of our offices, you walk in and talk to Chad, you walk in and talk to me, and we're going to tell you the kind of insurance coverage you want. You want underinsured, you want uninsured, you want gap. Now it sounds like, oh my gosh, I'll be insurance poor, but all these other side coverages they cost very little. And so, I have lots of insurance because of the job I do, and I've seen the worst case scenario on everything. You may not need to have as much insurance as I bought because I'm scared to death, but people as a whole do not have enough insurance on their car to make them whole. I had a lady walk in just Friday who had a property damage issue with her car. She'd bought a car with a salvage title, which means it had been totaled, and it was fixed up, and it worked great. She'd paid it off. She had no payments to make. And what they did is when the accident happened, they towed it off to a tow yard, and they stored it there. And while she's been fighting the last 5 months over the value of the car, it's been incurring $10 a day of storage. So now to get her car out of storage would cost more than the value of the car. So that's another thing I recommend to my clients. If you get into a car accident, if you have a way to store it at home or at a friend's house or at a garage that you trust that's not going to charge you for storage fees, that's what you need to do, because you're going to have to pay the storage fees, and a lot of times that'll take over the value of your car and you can't go buy a new car.
And as in some cases, you find out what that fee is after the fact.
Oh, yeah, you don't know. They don't call you and warn you and say, hey, you're up to $300 now. It just happens, and it's crazy and exorbitant what they charge. But when you sign that towing agreement, you haven't read it because you've just been in an accident, you're overwhelmed, you're panicked, you may be in pain, and you're signing whatever they put in front of you just to get it taken care of. So if you have the option, even if the car's been in storage for a week, pay to get it out of storage and put it somewhere where you're not getting charged if you're having to fight a property damage battle.
Yeah. Which could go on for some time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a good thought. I've never thought of that. Even when people have their cars towed because they've been parking in the wrong place, that's the other, and I know this has nothing to do with property damage. This is just but it's another one of those fun things you get to find out. Oh, this is how much your illegal parking ticket was. This is how much it's going to cost you to get your car back.
That's right, because you got the towing fee, you got the storage fee, and you're like, wait, my car's not worth that much.
Yeah.
And I have had clients that just signed their car over to the impound lot because they can't afford to get it out.
I shouldn't. I mean, it sounds a little humorous at the beginning, but it's very horrible and sad to the person that has
Well, if you don't have a car, you don't have a job because you can't get to work, and your kids can't get to school, and you can't get to the grocery store. It is a snowball effect that is terrible, so you really need to be on top of it. And that's why it helps to get an attorney immediately that can help give you this guidance.
Yeah. And as you talked, some insurance policies will pay for a rental car while yours is being taken care of, and that sometimes can drag out a little bit. So as we talk on occasions with Chad here on your show, insurance companies sometimes may be on the other side of the firm, but if you use insurance properly and you get the right insurance, it can help you because many times, as we pointed out, we're the victims of an accident, and hopefully not the cause of the accident. Yet we still have to work our way through all the things that happen.
And our goal is for folks to have the insurance they need before they have the accident. Most of the time we see them after the accident and they don't have enough insurance. So if you're listening to me, go talk to your agent this week and say, what insurance coverage do I have? How much more do I need? How do I get this gap insurance for my car if I'm going to be upside down? How do I get underinsured? How do I get uninsured? Because if they use the term full coverage, it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. Yeah. So if they tell you it's full coverage, say, thank you for giving me full coverage, but why don't you tell me what that includes?
Yeah. What is your definition of full?
Exactly.
And what is, and this is what I'm looking for. Sheila, the slip and fall, we were talking with Danny here in the station this morning. He saw an accident the other day. It wasn't a slip and fall accident, but it was he said it might as well have been on ice when a vehicle lost control because of just a little bit of moisture on the ground. So slipping and falling doesn't happen just in the times of ice and snow. It happens when there's wet conditions, and it happens sometimes when there's obstacles in our way that cause us to trip and fall, maybe not slip and fall.
More often than not, it's actually caused by a defective condition. People do a good job of keeping a lookout of where they're going. And if you're walking down the sidewalk in a city and there's either a portion of the sidewalk that's higher than the other, or there's a worn down hole in the sidewalk, you can trip and fall and get serious injuries. I've had clients with brain injuries, broken bones, you name it. And if you're in a city and you do it on the sidewalk or on the roadway, you only have 90 days to send a certified letter to the city through the mayor or through the certain other officials that says exactly where you fell, what date you fell, what time you fell, what the condition was that caused your fall, and exactly what your injuries are. It's a statute. It's called KRS 411.110, and it's a pitfall. It's really dangerous if you don't know about that, and it's only 3 months.
Yeah, Chad, the other day we were talking about statute of limitations, 1 year and 2 years, and sometimes this is actually the statute of limitations.
Exactly. It's a 90-day limit for you to put the city on notice, and if you don't, you're out of luck. And it's frustrating, but that's why anytime you're going to slip and fall, you have to get an attorney right away, or at least talk to some attorneys right away, because not only do you have that 90-day issue, if you fall in a Ready Mart or a grocery store or even out at a gas station outside of the pumps, there's going to be videotape. And a lot of times they copy over that. It's not videotape anymore, it's digital, but a lot of times they copy over it within 30 days. And once it's copied over, it's gone.
Yep.
So if you want evidence of it, you have to ask them for a copy of that tape, which they're not going to give to you. So you have to have an attorney to send a letter that's called a preservation of evidence letter that says to them, do not destroy this tape. We want a copy of this tape. We want to see what happens, because obviously that video is going to be the best evidence of exactly what happened to your client. A lot of time people walk into the Ready Mart, and those rectangular rugs that they have in there to keep you dry. Well, they'll fold over or something, and you're walking in, got your wallet open intending to pay, and you'll trip right over that. That's a dangerous condition. They didn't have warning signs up. They didn't have wet floor signs up. They didn't have, have it down like they should. That's their job, to keep it safe. And if it causes you to fall, you need to get that videotape right away. Another thing you don't want to do in slip and falls is give a statement to either the place where you fell or their insurance company. If you're going to give a statement, you want an attorney on the phone with you, and you want to have discussed it with them beforehand, because they can trip you up. Things that you say innocently can and will be used against you in a court of law, as they say on TV.
I've heard that on TV.
Yeah. And, it's unfortunate because you didn't cause the fall.
Yeah.
You didn't cause the dangerous condition. And all of a sudden, your innocent words are being used against you. So, very important that you speak to someone. You don't have to hire us. You don't have to hire anyone in particular, but you do need to go talk to a lawyer if you have a slip and fall right away, so you don't miss any of these dangerous deadlines that are looming out there.
When you go back and talk, we're not picking on any city or municipality, governmental entity that owns sidewalks or whatever, but as Chad was talking with us the other day, the fact that an injury may not pop out or show itself in 90 days, if it's from a slip and fall or anything else, a back injury. Most times it happens, at least in my case. I can do something stupid, and it's usually not 90 days before I have to go start getting medical attention, but it's usually, a week or so. But you never know. You can have an injury that you actually did it, and more than 90 days later is when the disc decided to go ahead and completely rupture.
Well, Roth, you could be going to physical therapy. You could be in pain all that time and thinking it's going to get better because the physical therapist says, hey, we're going to help you get better. Physical therapists are great, and they do help you get better, but sometimes you're working at it and working at it and working at it. It's not getting any better, and in fact, it may get worse. It may start to radiate down into your legs or into your arms, depending on where it is, and all of a sudden, 90 days has creeped up on you, and you have an MRI that shows that you have a herniated disc or a bulging disc, or you need surgery. Well, you're out of luck if you've missed that deadline. And another thing that you might find sometimes is some cities or other places, Ready Marts, whatever, have what's called med pay, which is sometimes $5,000, sometimes $10,000, sometimes they don't have any at all. But regardless of fault, they'll have money to help pay medical bills. So you want to find that out as soon as possible, so that you're not having to pay those bills out of your pocket if you can help it. They may not have it, frankly, but if they do, you want to know about it.
And that doesn't have any effect on any type of settlement type.
Not at all.
That just helps you immediately, and it's kind of a good thing for them to have. It shows good faith on
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So it can be wintertime when we slip, or it can be right here in August. Which,
That's right.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised.
And
now.
you don't have to be clumsy. Everybody falls, and most of the time it's not your own fault.
Yeah, exactly. So be careful, but also be aware of the conditions around you.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
So, Sheila, texting while driving is another thing that against the law in, I guess, most states.
It is now, yeah.
And certainly in Kentucky now. We just had an officer who was received an award for having the most citations on our force here, not for getting people for texting, but not wearing seatbelts,
Right.
which is just as important.
Extremely important.
You know, do both. Don't text and do put that seatbelt on. Both are the laws to do those. But texting while driving is something that just scares me to death because I'm pretty sure I still see it going on, and I'm not
rampant.
the most observant dude in the world.
It's rampant, especially with our teenagers. There's a whole program called End Distracted Driving that is sponsored by the Injury Board and the American Association for Justice, which is the National Trial Attorneys Group. And we have a whole PowerPoint presentation that we talk about distracted driving, and it was created by, oddly enough, the president of the the American Association for Justice. So the president of all the national trial attorneys, you think nothing bad's going to happen to him. His daughter was killed by a distracted driver. She was walking in a crosswalk, and the driver bent down to get his phone and hit her in the crosswalk and killed her. And so instead of just mourning the loss, he decided to turn it into something positive, and he's created this entire PowerPoint presentation that we can take as attorneys, and we can go to the high schools around town, and we can go to the junior class or the sophomore class, the kids that are getting ready to drive, and talk to them about it and tell them how simple it is. And you see some stories in there where a sister is texting her own sister while knowing she's driving. I mean, maybe you're not driving, but you know your friend or your family member's driving, and you text them. That's just as irresponsible as texting while you're driving. But if you know somebody's driving, don't text them. Because it's kind of that weird feeling. You hear that bing, you're like, oh, I want to know who that is. Who's trying to get in touch with me? I really want to see what they had to say. And the best thing you can do is turn your phone off while you're driving. And they actually have apps that you can do that, where it either, if you go above 10 miles per hour, it turns off the phone's ability to get phone calls or texts. You can turn your phone off altogether. A lot of people put their phone in their purse in the back, or if they're guys, they put it in the glove compartment. Turn the sound off so you don't hear it. What we have found is if you're going 55 miles per hour and you look down at your phone for 1.5 seconds for a text, you're going to go the length of 2 football fields before you can stop. So you think it's just a split second. It's not going to bother anybody. But if all of a sudden a kid runs out for a ball in front of you, you're not going to have the time to appreciate it, hit the brakes, and stop. So we really, really need to stop this. I'll be honest with you. I've done it. I think everybody out there has texted when they've been driving. It's very dangerous, and we need to put a stop to it. And we at McCoy and Hiestand would love to come to any high school, come speak to your sophomores, juniors, your seniors, whatever class you want us to talk to. Put on the PowerPoint presentation. It's completely free, and get the kids talking about it. Get them, because they'll admit that they've done it. But get them, and what was really neat is I had one guy raise his hand, and he had a sister who had died from texting and driving. And he was very appreciative of us coming, and he himself tells kids, hey, don't do this. Please stop. It really matters.
So all they have to do is call either offices of McCoy and Hiestand.
Absolutely. 800-254-4444. Call and ask for Chad or ask for Sheila, and one of the administrators from the high school. Call us, and we will be happy to get that set up and come and speak to your class. 'Cause, that's what we need to do. It's our job. Chad and I aren't just lawyers out there trying to make a buck. We're trying to make our community better places. Because we have kids. Chad's got 2 boys. I've got a boy and 3 girls. And in fact, today's my son's 16th birthday. So he's going to get his permit. And it scares the dickens out of me, quite frankly. So knowing what I do for a living, I see every worst case scenario, and I'd like to wrap him in bubble wrap and put him in the basement so he never gets hurt.
But you know what? As I recognize that every day, our children will always be our children, so we'll worry about them
until they're 100 years old.
100 years old. So that bubble wrap, you might have to replace it a couple of times. He might be able to find his way out of it.
Yes. Knowing Michael, he'd find a way out.
Our phone line is 348-2222 if you have a question you'd like to call in with a question or make a comment about texting and driving or anything else we've covered this morning. Do so, 348-2222. Sheila Hiestand from McCoy and Hiestand's attorney at laws, down the street from us here on South 3rd Street in Bardstown and also in Louisville, Kentucky. And again, your 800 number is, I have it.
800-254-4444.
Okay.
And we don't just do slip and falls and car accidents. So we're happy to talk to you about anything you might bring us. And the nice thing is, Chad and I have a broad national base of attorneys that we work with. Mm-hmm. So if you live here in Kentucky and you got into an accident in Louisiana, we can help you find someone there. We just want to make sure that everybody has resources that they can reach out to.
One of the more interesting guys I ever dealt with was a communications attorney that we used for several years from Louisiana.
Louisiana is one of the coolest states out there. It's no Kentucky, mind you, but it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would just make sure I had a good attorney if I was in Louisiana.
Absolutely.
Maybe that sounded like I was passing judgment on him.
No, not at all. I didn't take that.
Let's go back and talk a little bit about property damage. I kind of mentioned the fact that sometimes people's homes are damaged when they're not there. They had no fault at all. And that can be really interesting because you've got, say it is a two-car accident, because we've heard of cars getting hit in an accident, and all of a sudden those cars are flying off the roadway and sometimes ending up in people's yards and sometimes ending up in their front living room.
Right.
That becomes almost, I hate to use the word circus, but when you talk about getting somebody's home repaired, and you've got possibly a situation where somebody's trying to determine who was at fault in that accident that created them.
Then you're stuck. Now, anytime something like that happens, you always have to look at the insurance policies of the person at fault, of the person that hit your home. You have to look at your homeowner's policy. Most homeowners' policies have coverage for things that happen to it that it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. But the things that they don't have coverage for instance, is flooding, right? Naturally rising waters. If we have a very heavy rain, 6 inches in 2 hours, it's likely your homeowner's policy is not going to cover that. Right. Flood insurance has to be obtained through the federal government. Right. And it's very inexpensive, and it's not that hard to get. Everybody should get it, because I did, in fact, have a client who, Raising Waters, they were in Michigan. They had moved to Michigan. Their house was on the market in Mount Sterling. And while they were gone, they got heavy rain, and the whole left side of their house, the concrete block, fell into the ground because it was so soft and fell out. So not only did they have this damage to the entire side of their house, the rain continued to blow into the house and destroy their furniture and their rug and their drywall, and that was not covered under their insurance policy. So here you have a family that's already moved. They're trying to sell their house, and now they're trying to sell a house with a big hole in the side. It's got a bunch of interior damage. So you want to make sure you look at your policy. You want to call your agent right away. As soon as something happens, get the agent out there. If you have an attorney, you want to call them to see what things that they need to look. We can read the policies and help you through it. And any attorney can that does this kind of work. And you want to make sure on your homeowner's policy that you have, we talked about replacement cost on your car. You want replacement for your personal items, your stereo, your furniture, if you have a piano, if you have jewelry. Most policies will just be actual cash value, what the actual cash value of that thing is today, which is a lot less than what you paid for it, and you couldn't possibly replace it with what they give you. So you pay a little extra. Again, it's not that much, and you can get replacement coverage for all the stuff that's in your house, so that if you lose a toaster, you get that same, you can buy that same toaster with the money they give you. If you don't have that, if you just have actual cash value, good luck getting a toaster, because it's not going to happen.
You're going to have to go to a yard sale.
That's exactly right.
So it sounds to me this morning that we're talking about the fact that your law firm, it can also be very instrumental in working with a person on their estate, not their estate after they're gone, but their current estate, their property they own now, how to make sure it's covered, protected, and in case of one of these catastrophes happens to us.
That's right.
That we don't know if it hopefully never happened to us, but it could be in the next 30 minutes.
That's right. You just want to make sure when you're getting your insurance, whether it's homeowners or auto, that you're very well educated, that you've spoken with someone that does the kind of work that Chad and I do, anybody, and you get good information and you have it written down exactly what you want when you go into the insurance agent's office, because you're going to forget. I don't know what I did yesterday, and so if you know what you want, you write it down. You're going to write down on your car, I want liability, I want collision, I want uninsured, I want underinsured, I want PIP, which is the no fault benefits, that if you get hurt, you pay the first $10,000. I have added PIP so that I got up to $30,000 of my medical bills paid, because one night in the hospital, your $10,000 is gone.
Yep.
So, and then maybe if you can, an umbrella. There's just all kind of, I think we talked about replacement costs. All those things, you want them written down so that when you go into your agent, say, I want a quote for this, and you'll be surprised. It won't be significantly more on a monthly basis than if you just get liability coverage. Yeah. And never, ever, ever, ever sign a waiver of a coverage, because Kentucky law mandates that every driver have liability of $25,000. It mandates that they have uninsured motorist coverage. It mandates that they have PIP. Your insurance agent can offer you to sign a waiver that says, I don't want uninsured and I don't want PIP. Never sign those waivers. The coverage is not that much more expensive. And when you have a waiver and you're in an accident and you can't get medical care because you signed a waiver 2 years ago, it's really a frustrating situation.
And you may have saved $20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sheila, tell us again how everybody finds you guys. Easy for us, to, as we sit here, to say just that way down the street on South 3rd Street. Online also.
Our Bardstown office, where Chad is located at 114 South 3rd Street in Bardstown. You can walk in anytime. We got great gals we work with there. And we work as a team. When we try cases, we try them together, doesn't matter where it is. My office is in Louisville at 108 Browns Lane, right off Shelbyville Road. And we work, though, all over Kentucky. I've worked as far as Whitesburg and as far west as Paducah and Hopkinsville.
That's where I'm from that area.
Oh, you're from Western Kentucky. It's a great place.
Great place, yeah.
And done a lot of work in Lexington. Lived there for 20 years, or lived there for 30 years. And of course, do Indiana work and Tennessee work. We can help you out. We can talk to you, and if we can't help you out, we're going to be honest with you. We're not going to gild the lily. That's one thing you'll find with me and Chad, is that we're going to tell you the truth from the beginning, and we're not going to give you inflated expectations only to have you shot down at the end and have you be disappointed.
Okay. The firm of McCoy Hiestand has a website. You can call it. They have a toll-free number. You guys are easy to find, easy to get a hold of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 800-254-4444, and our website is www.McCoy and Hiestand, which is HIE stand STAND.com.
Sheila, thank you very much. We enjoyed meeting you and having you on your show for the first time today. And in the future, we're working on some technology that will maybe allow you and Chad to be on the show, and you might be somewhere in Louisville or getting ready to go into some courthouse somewhere. As soon as we get everybody connected to that thing right there that I pointed at.
Well, thank you, Roth, very, very much. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the fine people of Bardstown.
And again, for those that didn't hear, if a school or a group that in particular has young kids that are about to get their driver's license or just have got them, would like for you guys to come out and show them the significance and importance of not texting or not being distracted while driving, you guys were happy to do that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Great service. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
That's the show. Be back in a couple of weeks with Chad and Sheila right here on WBRT Radio.